the one thing that Democrats have done a phenomenal job at, phenomenal, is controlling the narrative. Even if most people don't believe the narrative, as we saw, they've done a phenomenal job of positioning themselves as the mainstream, as the majority. And they've done a great job of making even the most staunch conservative Trump supporters, even the most patriotic, they've done a great job of making you feel like you're in the minority. They've done a great job through Hollywood and entertainment and control of, everything you see on TV and sports and everything on the New York Times and all the most trusted media and experts and everything. They've done a great job of positioning themselves as, look, this is what most people think in the country. And guess what? If you're a Trump supporter, you are part of a very kind of just extremist fringe group of people that are not only bad, but you're also stupid. You're stupid and evil. And there's not a lot of you. And most people are liberal. Most people sympathize with the Democrats. Most people don't like Trump. And you would agree with all of that if you weren't paying attention. If you didn't know any better, you would agree with all of that because it's all you'd be able to see. And anybody who's not open to the idea that you're actively being lied to and gaslit on a daily basis would have to imagine that, okay, well, if this is what I'm seeing in front of my eyes every day, then it must be because this is the case. And then what happens? What happens is last week, 5 million and counting more people voted for Donald Trump than Kamala Harris. Donald Trump, a Republican won the popular vote in an election in this country for the first time in like 2 decades. It's been a long time since that happened. I think probably, maybe, I don't know, did George Bush win the popular vote in 2004? I don't know. That might be the most recent time. It's been at least 20 years. Certainly the first time since I've been following politics. It's not a very common thing, and I think a lot of people, including myself, had kind of assumed going into this that Republicans would probably never win a popular vote ever again. And the only thing even keeping Republicans and conservatives in the race at all was the Electoral College. And it turns out that that's not the case. For the first time since I've been involved in politics, the accepted truth that liberals are the majority, Democrats are the majority, and the conservatives, the right wing, are the counterculture. They're the people that are like not as represented. They're the people that are like kind of more on the fringes, whatever. For the first time since I've been paying attention to politics, that is not the case. This is something I want everyone to truly, and I hate the whole let that sink in, but at times it's appropriate to say, I really want you to let this, what I'm about to say, sink in. If you voted for Trump, if you sympathize with Trump, and you did not vote for Kamala, you did not sympathize with her agenda or lack thereof, you did not sympathize with Biden and all that shit that happened with him and the direction this country has been going. If all of that is things you were against, and Trump and a different path or whatever is something that you were for, you are the majority. I'm going to say it again. You are the majority. That's a crazy thought. It's a crazy thought when 95% of everything you see and hear, when you open your eyes, is anti-Trump, telling you that you're a fringe, extremist, Nazi supporter, whatever, racist, all these things. And then you look at the actual numbers and go, wait a second. There are more people in this country that agree with me than don't. I mean, I'm going on my Instagram feed and every person I know, oh my God, how could you? How is this happening? Blah, blah, blah. And then it'll hit me. Oh my God, there's more of us than them. I always assumed, at the very least, there were more of them than us. I always just assumed there were more liberal, progressive, Kamala Democrats. And that's not the case at all. That is the craziest realization of all. Because even after the fact, you're still bashful. I'm still bashful to even publicly, on any real level, like, on Instagram, Facebook, my primary platforms, I'm still bashful about being overtly a Trump supporter. Let me tell you something. I never met a person who was an avid Kamala supporter who was bashful about that. Liberals will be the first one to tell you their political opinions, and they'll also be the first one to assume that you agree with them because, in their minds, because they've completely bought into that whole idea of being the majority and everyone agrees with them all the time, and 95% of the coverage is anti-Trump because 95% of people are anti-Trump. They've completely bought into that more than we did. And even we bought into it, but they really bought into it. So if they know someone in their own personal life, they just naturally assume that they're probably they probably hate Trump, just like they do, because in their mind, a Trump supporter is some crazy Nazi KKK guy. And, well, Jimmy, you're not a crazy Nazi KKK guy. So I feel perfectly comfortable talking about how much of a psycho Trump is and how much Trump supporters are stupid. And I feel perfectly fine talking to you about that at the bar, because I just assume that you agree with me, because my picture of Trump supporters is that, well, you couldn't possibly be one because you're, normal and not a terrible person. And of course, as we know, Trump supporters are weird and terrible people. So they have no problem. Every person who voted for Kamala has been, lighting up your fucking story feed on social media for the past week. But here's the funnier thought. Every person who hasn't been posting about the election for the past week agrees with you. And as easy as it is to recognize the bombardment of a lot of people in your feed losing their fucking minds, posting fucking suicide hotline shit. If you need to talk, I'll be leaving the country for a while. I'm deleting my social media. You know where to find me. There's a lot of that, and that's all you see, because you don't see the people going like, hell yeah. Hell yeah. Oh, you voted? Me too. I voted. Not for the person you wanted me to, though, but democracy. And it turns out there's more of those people, objectively 5 million, 6 million more of them, than the ones that are whining in your fucking Instagram feed and Facebook and Twitter. But they're the only ones talking. Why? Because that narrative is so heavily ingrained in all of us, right, left, and center, that sympathizing with Trump is taboo. And they've maintained that, again, by positioning themselves as the majority and posing Trump supporters as the minority. And therefore, they intimidate you. They make you feel outnumbered. They make you feel bashful about expressing the fact that you don't fuck with them and you fuck with Trump. The worst imaginable thing. You are one of a million and nobody is on your side if that's what you think. Guess what? It's the complete opposite. It's amazing that now you're starting to see the dust kind of clear, and people are kind of coming out of the woodworks and being like, hey, by the way, I noticed that we're actually in the majority in this country. Like, most people that voted for Trump. So I don't know why we're still so afraid to talk about that. Like, we should be as open to discussing that as the Kamala voters are open to fucking losing their minds. Like, but again, it's still so ingrained in us to not do that. And that just speaks volumes to the level of which we've been lied to.